gig tonight is dedicated to Steve, eh? Blast us up.
Was a lot stronger.
Yeah,
I reckon.
yeah. Back in our day, when we were doing that, yeah, it was like heaps more bands around. Hey,
Just stack more.
but there's a lot now.
Back then.
There's still a lot now. I just think that we have fonder memories of that because of the nostalgia value for it. But yeah, but yeah, there's the scene back then. We had a lot of bands and you have a lot of mixed bills, which is cool. Like we played with other types of bands. We played with punk bands, we played with thrash bands, death metal bands, and we were doing our thing. And everyone seemed to get together for it. It was more. There was a lot of underage stuff going on. We played like PCYCs and stuff.
PCYC thing was strong back then.
And they had things like Grounded Festival, which was awesome. Like when we played that, it was like, whoa, it was great. It was like, you know, hundreds of people and stuff. Like
kind of that was a defining point.
Yeah.
If you made it to, if you got onto the Grounded Festival lineup, you knew that you meant something in the scene.
Yeah, yeah.
Or at least that you were on your way.
I just don't see anything like that at the moment out there. Like there's no Grounded Festival. I just don't think there's as many venues. So I think that there is a strong thing going on like the hardcore scene out there. I think that's pretty big, but I'm not that. I don't have much insight into that, so I'm not sure if it's still going strong. It could be, but for us, yeah, it just seems a bit different. But, yeah.
Western Sydney thrash metal is definitely unique to sort of anywhere else in the world. With the thrash metal scene that was coming out in the late 80s and early 90s from the USA with the Big Four, of course, it was a huge influence on us as well. But the Westies had their own sort of angle on it. It was like a cross between being a headbanger and being a headbanger thrasher and being a biker, you know. And so even though the bikies some of them hated us, you know, But it was there was definitely definite crossover between the bikie scene and the thrash metal scene, and I'm very proud to be part of it as the bikies are too, because we're the only ones who can look back at photographs of ourselves from the 80s and not be embarrassed about what we were wearing, you know, because everyone else was wearing ridiculous outfits, man. We just basic, denim and leather, you know, and of course the flannel, mate. Flannel. That's Western Sydney metal right there. Flannel, mate. Yeah. If you want to know a good Western Sydney metal band, just look on the side of the stage, and if you see a flannelette shirt in there amongst the bags that they've thrown aside, they're getting ready to play the gig, you know they're a genuine Western Sydney heavy metal band, mate.
Well, we've been in it, around it for about 12 years. Jeff and I both grew up in Penrith, so we grew up straight out of high school. We would go to things like Granite Festival, PCYC gigs, although when we were young, I mean, this is even going back before, like, we finished high school, there'd be all these PCYC gigs, and it'd be mostly like pop punk stuff, like when we were like 13, 14. But the metal scene was a little bit not as strong when we were quite young, like I'm talking like late 90s. And then it started to develop a little bit stronger. Well, I guess from what we noticed, it started to get a little bit stronger when places like the Celts Bar up in Blaxland were going on.
Yeah. Celts Bar is like one of my fond memories. I remember one of our first shows there was With the Stain album launch. That was like Recoil actually opened that up, and then it was us. I think it was after that. I didn't take Crime there from the city, but Notion as well, and then With the Stain obviously. But yeah, that was a good show. Celts was awesome back in the day. It was a really cool place to play, mad stage, good sound. But yeah.
Well, it's definitely changed since I've been around it, because I've been kind of doing shows for maybe since like 2004. And things have really changed, because I noticed we were, like, at that age, I was kind of going to all age shows. So the way bands have kind of presented themselves at that point to now, it's completely different, because there's like alcohol involved now and stuff like that. So we're going to bars and pubs and clubs and whatever. So back, I guess, when we first started going to shows like in Western Sydney and watching them, I don't remember too many like metal bands. There's a few that we used to go watch, but it was mainly there was a lot of punk bands in the Western Sydney area. Just different punk bands. We used to go see like Faux Pas and there's heaps. All the names escape me because we weren't really going to see them, but some of the venues there was a lot more support. I found anyway. This is for the all age type of thing. So we kind of looked at it, you got to look at it kind of as all age to over 18s, I guess is the best way to put it.
I was doing like the Thoughts Yesterday stuff with Ace, and we're jamming with like there was sort of bands around like Lucretia and stuff like that. They fucking were pretty sweet. There's a whole, in the way that sort of things have changed. We used to be able to do more sort of like PCYC stuff, which I thought was pretty awesome. You know, like you get a lot of young kids around, and they all just kind of like dug it, and they'd all show up and and be there, like just enjoying the bands and stuff, and then sort of I know it all kind of died in the arse a little with that kind of stuff. Yeah. I know I hear things about like some PCYC gigs going every now and then, but I don't know, I just sort of thought that like the whole all ages stuff really did sort of help increase sort of popularity of the bands that were playing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Cryogenic were the kings of the Western metal.
They were. They
in our day.
were the epitome of what it was. I mean, they flannels, drinking, fighting, having a good time, and songs like Redneck.
Yeah.
I mean, it was what they were about. Definitely what they were about. But what they represented was a whole generation of youth from that way that like wanted to be heard and be part of a scene, and it really defined a generation.
And it gave like a voice to Western Sydney metal. You know what I mean? That was like the flag that they were flying, I guess. So and they really unified that and gave people something to believe in.
It's just like a modern day version of like the 70s pub rock thing too. It was just what Aussie was about back then.
They were rose tattoo for Penno back in the 90s.
Pretty much it was just that day's version.
The bands and the gigs were quite often focused out west, Parramatta and Blacktown, and with bands like Cryogenic and Morrissey and tons of other bands that don't spring to mind right now. And it went through a bit of a lull, I'd say 10 years ago, but I think there's still plenty of bands coming out of the woodwork from out here. The problem is probably the amount of venues to play, but the talent is still out there.
Probably from about mid-90s to 2000. It's really good. Had the likes of Cryogenic and Psychor and Alchemist and all those boys doing the rounds, and then it kind of died off. Some boys went overseas chasing a dream sort of thing, and it didn't really work for them. But the likes of Jerk kept it going to a certain extent, and then moved into Ink and other things like that, and it virtually went away for a long time. But in probably the last 3 years, it's come back on really strong, and the Valve, for one, as a venue to house these bands, has been a big part of it. And Venom has been really good as well. Blink starting to do bands has made a difference, and just the interest that all the bands are showing in working as a family and not trying to fight for the same piece of turf, but working together to get the common goal sort of thing. It has made a massive difference in the scene within itself, and it just moves ahead leaps and bounds. Like Foundry Road's pulling out sets, and Motors are pulling out sets. Like they had 5 months off, sorting out shit and all that sort of thing, but they're ready to go again and move to the next level. And you got Our Last Enemy that are like getting deals on video games with NASJAP and that sort of thing. Like shit that small Sydney bands had never seen in anywhere in the past. They're bringing the marketing to the next level and taking it upon themselves to do this sort of thing and go the extra mile, and it's making the difference.
With metal, the bands that I used to go see were things like Diasphere and Anxiety Whispers. They were really, at the time, it was kind of totally different, and we used to see Jerk a lot, like in Western Sydney. There was a whole bunch of different bands, and all the bands used to play together. It's kind of similar to now, but I guess you got those group of bands and they've moved on. And when we used to go see them, like the place used to pack out, and then when we started going to shows, we started playing with a lot of punk bands because, like I said, Penrith, mainly Penrith we played in, like Erskine Park, St. Clair, moving into like your Blacktown, Parramatta. There wasn't that many, there was kind of this crossover going at the time where it was a lot of hardcore, heaps of hardcore going on. So when we started kind of coming through, I guess we were getting put on shows with a lot of punk bands, but I guess we were kind of different because we stood out a little bit because we weren't exactly playing punk. We were playing more of like a mashup of punk and hardcore mixed with metalcore, which at the time really wasn't present too much because things like Parkway Drive and Prom Queen were just kind of coming up through and getting noticed. But there was a lot of venues like the Embassy Hotel that really stuck out for all ages, where the place would pack out and they were sending people away. We'd play things like Penrith PCYC and it was jam-packed. It's like kids everywhere, and they couldn't get enough of it. But then, like the price started rising, and less kids could obviously, or parents could afford sending their kids out to those kind of safer venues. So you start travelling to things, and there's even one incident where we went to see a band at Rockdale, and it was Anxiety Whispers, Tourette's were playing, Dead Inside the Chrysalis, a bunch of other bands, and a guy in a Slayer hoodie, I don't know, stole all the money, so no bands got paid that night. But you know, you can't, you know, all the bands were happy to continue, they didn't stop. You know, we all paid our money to get in. None of the bands got paid that night, but they still put their all in. You know, they chased the guy away and he pulled a knife out on people. But that definitely, that wasn't in Western Sydney. So see, the scene's a lot better in Western Sydney. Maybe I kind of went off. But so we've kind of gone the past. I know there's a lot of different bands, and a lot of them have moved on into different acts now. And they're still like kind of the major acts, I guess, not playing as much in Western Sydney now. I guess Western Sydney is almost like a feeder ground for the city and out of states as well, because a lot of great talent started performing in Western Sydney. We had different festivals like the Grounder Festival near the Museum of Fire and stuff, and all that kind of thing's gone. So everything seems to me, and even all these venues, there doesn't seem to be as much happening where it's all moved to pubs and clubs.
Recoil, we've done a lot with Recoil.
Yeah,
we both Recoil and our Last Enemy supported Static X when they came out here. That was really good. We shared a backstage room together, and they gave us probably about 12 beers between two bands, and it was so hot. It was in summer. We had a little air conditioning vent about that big in the wall, and we'd all just kind of stand next to it like this before you go on. Meanwhile, like Static X had like 3 rooms by themselves, and there's 2 bands jammed in this one with an air conditioning vent like this. But it was good. It was fun. I enjoyed that. Who else?
Who else? Back in the day, you had Takata. Do you remember those guys? Yeah, they were pretty cool. Fat Slinky was another one. They were pretty cool. They had the DJ going and stuff. That was pretty mad.
They were a bit more. They were like funk metal.
Yeah.
Cool. Really?
They still.
Yeah, the Back Door, that was like a major venue at the time for all national touring bands. It gave a lot of bands an amazing start in the Western Sydney area. So Penrith Panthers Club would open up the side door entrance, which now like Harry's Cafe de Wheels is near. But you would go down and all ages would be allowed in that venue, plus obviously over 18s. There was no drinking allowed in the venue, but you could go see different acts. We would go see like Frankenbach and Days End, and you'd be paying $10 entry. And this was happening week to week, so you'd have Frankenbach, who was signed to Roadrunner at the time, doing their tour on the Blood Oath album, coming to your local town, playing for a $10 entry, and the level of quality of musicianship in that venue was amazing. I'm not saying that the bands aren't now, but nobody's touring into the Western Sydney area. They're trying to get out of it because we don't have those venues to actually sustain those kind of touring bands.
One of the first gigs I went to was the Back Door, and that was Project Offenham, which is Brad, our drummer's old band.
Well, I started out in the Western Sydney heavy metal scene probably about in the late 80s as a youngster. I came more from the northwestern Sydney. I grew up in Dundas Valley, and when I moved out of home, I moved to Galston, of all places, which was near Galston High School. And Galston High School had this freakish thing about it where it would pump out heavy metal drummers, in particular Sean Burnett, Matt Coffey and Steve Hilder. I ended up hooking up with Steve Hilder to play drums with me on guitar. Ended up forming a band called Skullduggery, and moved to the great western suburbs heavy metal mecca at the time of the Seven Hills Inn. And I got to play a few gigs there. Entered a band comp there and won it, which was, you know, what band comps are like, mate. There's always something a bit dodgy going on about it. These ones in particular, it was decided by how much piss you drank. You know, this was before the responsible service of alcohol laws and whatever else. So what you'd do is you'd come along, you'd watch the band, and every time you bought a drink, you'd get a little raffle ticket, like the little raffle books you buy from Woolworths, and you get one of them and for every drink you bought. And that was how and at the end of the night, they put out 3 buckets, or 4, however many bands were in there, and you put your tickets in the bucket. So basically, the idea of winning it was whoever drank the most piss. You know. So we won. Yeah.
We played the closing night of the Back Door, and they were obviously having some problems there with the booker, the promoter, because obviously booking bands and starting to book friends bands and different things like that would happen, and it started becoming like an over 18s venue. And the night that we played there, it was a great night when it closed that night, but it was an over 18 show, so you missed out once again on all that all age crowd coming to the gig. But definitely the Back Door was such a huge venue for live music, for not just metal but for punk, hardcore. Everything was coming through, and international bands were even like gracing that stage. And the quality of stage, it was probably the best thing in Penrith at the time.
Where the Western Sydney metal scene really started was the 7 Hills Inn, and it was one of the only few venues at the time in the late 80s that would allow metal to play and put it on regular. And I don't know who the hell it was at the 7 Hills Inn that decided, yes, we're going to put these gigs on. But whoever you are, thank you. Praise, man. Awesome gigs at the 7 Hills Inn. One thing about the 7 Hills Inn, there was plenty of big stories there and whatever else. There was they had a great stage there. There was a pole for some reason. A pole, I think it's still there if you go there. That's holding the roof up or whatever else for structural reason. There was a pole about 2.5 metres away from the stage. And man, people was, because of all the mosh pits and whatever else, people were slamming into that pole all the time. And if it was a bit of a quiet night, if you were too drunk to stand up, you could sort of hang on to the pole, you know, and just relax like that. And I saw the great Mortal Sin play a gig there one time in the late 80s. And Matt Mora, frontman, came out full mosh pit, you know, he was going wild. But Matt Mora is very active frontman, you know. He jumped out and he bloody honoured the crowd and went around and jumped on it, grabbed onto the pole and sort of went around the pole, and then went with the microphone, went back up on stage again and started yanking on the cord, you know. It was like, come on, you know, give me my call back, you bastards, you know. And Shane Sparks, who was the Mortal Sin roadie, legendary bloke, had to run over, grab the microphone off and, you know, spin it back around the pole and give it back to him. So, good on you, Matt. Well fed.
Well, one of the first place we ever played was the Jolly Frog, which has been closed down, which is a shame because they were one of the only Western Sydney pubs that actually supported the metal and live music in general.
But
What else was there? Like Channel Cafe back in the day.
oh yeah, the Channel Cafe.
That's old school.
Yeah. No, that was great. And I remember the thing to do was not necessarily to go inside, but to hang out outside.
Yeah.
And, you know, be 15 and smoke cigarettes in the car park.
That's my first one.
Yeah, I forgot about that. And do you remember when they did that festival at Judge's Car Park?
Oh, up the top.
Yeah. Oh, I can't remember what year that was, but that was great.
It was summertime, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I remember
There's all different types of bands. Yeah.
Started out because I was at uni at the time, going to UWS, which is Kingswood, you know, like
Swamp
right in
Bar.
there. So we played the Swamp Bar, which was great. We played like, you know, your college is like a great scene to play. Everyone wants to get into it, and they're all, you know, experimenting and finding themselves. So, and I think we actually, one of our first ever shows was
Our
playing
first ever show.
I lived on Residence, it was called Res, and they had like a Res party. And we were the band that played, and we just... O Week, yeah, that's it, yeah. And we played that just to the residents in like a car park or something.
We're not late teens then.
Yeah, no, it was cool, yeah. So we just, and as we said before, like PCYCs and stuff, we're doing shows all the time, like all ages kind of stuff.
And you mentioned a show we did...
My Golf Festival.
Yes. Oh yeah. Mulgoa.
I remember
Festival.
Mulgoa Festival. That was pretty interesting. It was actually on the back of a truck, the stage.
This is before Our Last Enemy. This was when,
when we were in Soldier, yeah. And I remember that was pretty interesting because we had a DJ in the band, and if we started rocking out too much, his needle would start skipping, you know.
So, yeah.
So
This is like 1999 though, so you have to put it in context.
Yeah.
We'll do it now, but
That was interesting.
we were like,
It's just
we
cool.
were only like 10 at the time.
Yeah, it's just cool how like where's the will there's a way, you know what I mean? Like put it on the back of a truck, you know. We don't have a stage, so let's do it on a truck.
Kelts Bar up in
Kelts
the
Bar,
mountains.
yeah.
That was a big thing.
That's where we played our first show with Jerk,
Jerk,
who we went on to have a good relationship with during that period. And so Kelts Bar, definitely. Yeah.
It was good. What was the one in High Street in Penrith?
Yeah, one of the pubs there.
Great Western, wasn't it?
I think so. Is that the one?
Great
Yeah.
Western Hotel?
Yeah.
Something like that. I don't even know if it's still there.
Yeah.
It was us, remember Tourette's? It was Michael.
Yeah, there was
Gordon,
they
all
had a
those
club
boys from
there.
the day. Detox.
Detox. Yeah.
And they do that once a month. And Cherub Mafia guys and stuff.
Yeah, bands like Cherub Mafia. Chriso, who's in Thy Art Is Murder now.
Yeah,
he was in that
yeah.
band. We used to play with his other bands, and yeah.
Yeah.
A really mad thing as well is definitely in the industry when you make a lot of contacts and stuff, you can make so many really cool bands, and you always have a few good stories and stuff like that too, which you can always just come up with. It's great because like every weekend you can go and see these awesome bands, and there's and some of them have just so much talent in them, and it's great because you can go and spend like what $10-15 to go and see this great band, or said amount or whatever price, and you'll not see just one band but multiple bands for this great price, and you'll have a great night out. You can do that every weekend, and even when you're gigging, you meet these awesome bands. I actually remember there was a show we had a few months back now, organised by a friend of mine. She got a heap of bands to play, a few of which were Cryptic Scorn, which are a band from Perth, if I'm correct. And then we also had good friends of ours, Lower Back Problems, come in at the last minute, where there was this band called Autolysis, and they like something full on happened just before the show, and unfortunately they had to pull out. Actually, yeah, that's right. The guitarist, if I was correct, got lower back problems, and he wasn't able to perform, which we're really unfortunate with because I really wanted to play with those guys, but at the last minute, because I told my friend about lower back problems, or she may have got the, she may have just thought of it through another friend or something. She contacted them and asked them to play the show instead of Autolysis. So, due to the guitarist having lower back problems played instead. And, it's just this really sort of ironic twist there. And you get so much stuff like that.
So now you see things like Penrith Hotel has started doing things, but that's only for over 18, so you can't get anybody, any underages in that venue. And trying to get any underages in a venue now is hard because nobody wants to lose the sales of the alcohol or whatever. So I think that the scene in that way has kind of degraded a bit because we're not capturing the metal scene anyway is not capturing that all ages area anymore, where it's more sticking to that hardcore, like definitely hardcore. I don't know, like when you push genres and you go through it, everything kind of is a genre and a subgenre of everything else, but the metal scene in Western Sydney has kind of come to, there's a few venues, like I said, Penrith Hotel, you've got the Lucky Oz Tavern, that will do all ages, but it's supervised all ages, so you have to have a parent or a guardian, and they were sneaking people in, they definitely were, and that's all stopped, so you're finding less children turning up or less kids turning up, getting involved, so it's mainly adults, which is fine, but once again, you're losing that all age group that could really fill up the venue. And you know, I don't think it's just because people want to drink or anything. I think it's just you've got public liability and different things like that. And these little pop-up venues aren't happening as much anymore. Where they just open their doors, start up, bands will start playing until you got kicked out, and that's not happening in Western Sydney anymore. It's still an awesome place to play and be involved in. Our major fan base has always been from around Western Sydney, so can't knock it because they still always turn up when we play in Western Sydney pubs and clubs. But I do think, looking from past to present, the all age scene is kind of degraded. It's just not there anymore, or at least we're not seeing it from our point of view.
It's good. It's supportive. Yeah. It's a family. And so, what's good about it as it's been growing is that bands support each other and their fans support each other. So, there's much love there.
It's a close-knit group of people. Once you've played around for a while, you basically know all the bands that are in the scene and everything. So you can, and they're all a good bunch of people. It's great.
It's a very niche market. It's hard to get a lot of people out here and that, but there is a market out here for it. But I just find Sydney in general, there's a lot of people that want it, but then you get it, they get it, and they sort of don't appreciate it. A lot of people talk about supporting the live music scene, and then when push comes to shove, they'd rather sit on the couch at home and do nothing, But there's a lot of talent out here, a lot of great Western Sydney bands that unfortunately due to being in Australia, probably won't get any bigger than Australia, that whole continent and ocean separation, stops us from breaking into the people at record labels like this.
There's not enough money in the metal music in Australia. There's a huge scene for it, but
there's not one
Australians have got a habit of hating on Australian metal bands. Take more of the scene, they're huge in Europe. You know what I mean? They play to sold out stadiums. They sadistic execution, another one. And then they come and play a gig in Sydney and they've got 30-40 people at best turn up.
They used to
a lot of nights. You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. They have packed places in the day, back in the day, but a band like that you think would still pull, but the Australian music scene is very fickle as far as that goes.
But a lot of great Western Sydney talent. Copland's great. Everyone should support it. Get out here, support the gigs that love you as well. There's a lot of promoters and that out there, and there's a few of them Glenn, that really do the hard yards. Put a lot of our own finances in it. We're not people that have big bank accounts that'll go out. We don't have
commercial sponsorship or commercial backing at all. We do it for the love. We'd like to make a few bucks out of it. It's a very rare occurrence. If you make $50 on a night, it's a good night. You put anywhere from 10 to 100 hours into it. So that's $50 to $100, $200 you might make. it's not a good hourly rate if you look at it like that, but you don't do it for that.
And you split that 50 over 50 to 200 in the middle. It's fuck all, it's like 5 nights each. It doesn't even cover fuel costs to get from my house out here and back, you know. But yeah, it's a great scene. It's just people need to support it more, to be honest.
Yeah, there's two scenes in the Sydney music scene, so to speak. There's the cool kids that like to go to certain places around Sydney on a regular basis. Like don't get me wrong, I appreciate what these places do for the metal scene, but at the same time I think they're of a detriment to the scene on the fact that it stops the cool kids, so to speak, from going out and seeing these other bands, these other shows that are put on. Like, I don't know how many times I've even like baked meats for like 2 weeks before the show to pay for it, and I'm sure CJ's done the same. Yeah, and people just seem to think that these things happen without any work. They just appear in their local club media or on Facebook or wherever they see the event or see the band's playing, whether it's through word of mouth or whatever, but they just sort of take for granted that these bands are going to keep getting shows in these places. Just for the fact that the show's on, like they don't actually go anywhere other than where it's cool to be seen. You know, don't get me wrong, like these places, I've been to these places myself and I've had a great time every time I've been there, but I find it's more about the scene and being seen than going to see a band.
The Western Sydney heavy metal scene, it's getting better. It's what I mean by that is it's kind of peaked and then gone down and peaked and then gone down again, sort of ad infinitum for the past few years. I've sort of been actively a part of the scene since I was 18, so that's probably a good couple of years ago. So yeah, for about the past between 8 and 10 years, it's, as I said, peaked, going up and down again. There's been sort of the addition of venues and then some venues sort of going away again, and the addition of clubs and then clubs going away again. A good example would be, say, Club Lead in, say, what was it, Penrith. That was sort of like a good, the idea was great, the implementation not so great, but essentially the idea was what needs to happen more. It's, metal, heavy metal and alternative, basically, to use the word there. Alternative clubs around more accessible areas other than sort of the city, which is where we are now. The city generally tends to have a lot more availability of this kind of thing, whereas in Western Sydney there's not really very many clubs. There's just sort of music scene, sort of music. There's not really so many clubs as there is just sort of gigs, I guess you could say. And I reckon the music scene, especially in Western Sydney, would definitely benefit from having more places like Lead, albeit sort of implemented and run a little bit better. But generally, yeah. It is getting better. We are moving in the right direction, especially with sort of the shows that are being put on nowadays that are mixtures between bands playing and like sort of DJ sets, because at least it gives people more of an incentive to go other than just to sort of watch the same few bands. And that's another note, is that there are a lot of bands that are coming out and upcoming, but there's also a lot of good rotation of sort of bands that are, I guess you could say, established in the scene. Bands like sort of Us, Foundry Road, not another sequel, just another prequel. A number of bands like that. We all sort of do a lot of shows, whether it be together or with other bands. It gives a lot of good variety, because you can either, if you say you've seen NASJAP, for example, and you go, you know what, they put on a damn good show. They play that one song that I know that I've heard before, that I don't know what it is, whatever. And then you see another sort of fly with them and some other bands, and you know what, I could go watch them because they put on a good show. I know they'll put on a good show again, and it's good to sort of see some new bands as well.
Well, see, the good thing about it is when you get the people that have the right attitude, it's really it really is like a family. And I know probably everyone said that, but you get people that want to back each other up, people that want to support each other. You get the bands that play with each other a lot, you become really good mates, and you're all about supporting each other and promoting each other's band. So that's probably the best thing about it, when you find a group of bands like that that wants to back up and support each other. It's just really is like a family, and everyone comes together and supports each other.
Sweet. What were some venues that you played at Out West? So tell me about them.
Okay, well, a while ago we played actually out here at the Hawkesbury Hotel. We've played at the Lucky Australian a number of times. Even club-led Parramatta, when that was at Hotel Parramatta, if you want to count that. Those are probably the main places that we've played out west. We haven't got around to playing at the Penrith Hotel for club-led Penrith, but I mean, who knows? But I mean, for the most part, there isn't too many places out west. More of them are obviously towards the city, but there's a few places out here that do a respectable crowd.
Getting better, getting bigger, slowly. Been a long time coming.
Finally get places to play.
Sweet.
And now people are actually starting to show up too, which makes a big difference.
Awesome.
What do you guys think?
Oh, it's getting there, slowly but steadily.
Not a lot of places for them to play.
Yeah. Yes, venue.
There's a huge fan base, but it's not being taken advantage of. It's not being marketed properly, so venues don't actually get a lot of through flow of people actually coming to see them because the advertising sucks.
Pretty much.
And also you have limited venues that will actually let metal bands play.
Yeah, and it can be hard to get that exposure as well. So there are a lot of really, really good bands out there, but they don't get noticed because they're not marketed properly, or they might have a really ridiculous name.
Not unlike you.
Not us.
We're good. We're good.
But yeah, there is a lot of good bands. They're just, for whatever reason, going unnoticed.
Yes, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
And then there's that.
Yeah.
Perfectly honest with you, it's not great. The scene seems to be pretty dead, as people just don't want to get out to go see bands in Sydney anymore. I know 10 years ago even, the scene was thriving, huge bands were playing and everyone wanted to go out and see them. And I think with modern technology today, people just don't want to get out of the house to see bands. But on the other hand, in recent, say, year or two, a lot of people have actually gotten out, and the scene is sort of growing up a bit. There are a lot of good bands out there that deserve more recognition than they have, and there are a lot of not so good bands out there that have way more recognition than they deserve. But I think the scene is definitely getting a lot bigger than this.
I'm saying, alright, hit and miss, dude. Sometimes you'll play to a packed room, sometimes you'll play to nobody. And the problem with that is there are so many amazing bands that are going around that do play to nobody. And they're usually the better bands, The bands that make it aren't necessarily the best or the most talented. They just have that luck, or they know somebody that knows somebody. It's weird because most of the time when you play to nobody, you sort of get a bit down and you think, what's the point of doing this apart from the love of play music or whatever. Then you'll pack out on a night like a CD launch or some special event that's been organised where you sell tickets and push for it to happen. They all know your songs, and it's all because of the internet these days, dude. Like, everyone will watch you on YouTube, they'll download your stuff from free torrents, they'll buy it off iTunes. That's where everything's at. The scene is online now, so it may sometimes not look like it's working out when you play shows or things like that, but it really is. Because of how technology is now and how the world is now, people look at you differently, in a different way. And that's how they work these days. Like, we played, like, we're actually outside the Bald-Faced Stag at the moment for a big show that's on tonight that we'll pack out. We played here a few weeks ago for our CD launch and we sold the venue out. Every other show that we play will probably not get anywhere near what we had that night. And that's not because we're terrible or because the bands are terrible or because the people are terrible. It's just how this stuff works these days. People don't want to go out, or not necessarily don't want to go out, they don't have to. The internet is what makes you not need to go out. Like I said before, YouTube, iTunes, all that, people had to physically go out, buy a CD. They had to physically go out, buy a DVD. They had to go watch the bands. There was no other way to do it. Now you don't need to do any of that. So when you're a band, you market differently now. You look at the internet, you try and sell your stuff online. CDs are becoming a thing of the past now because of things like the scene, because of the people that don't go to shows.
Well, recently I've been talking to Optic, Nicole, and she's been giving me some work making the flyers for the venue. I've done some very good flyers over the last 3 or 4 months. And also I've been booking bands to play, which just, consists of finding a band that is interested in playing and getting them to play. There's really not all that much to it. I mean, it's not exactly a job so much as it is a hobby, but it's good to be able to give bands the opportunity to play venues they would probably not normally play at, or that they just aren't familiar with, or even if they are familiar with it, really. But just the idea is just to get some people out here to see some new music they haven't seen before, and awesome.
Well, we've been playing music ever since, because we're brothers, and we've been playing music ever since we're young. And one day we thought, well, I want to start a band. And 4 years later,
I started as soon as I heard Fade to Black. I was at a party once when I was really younger, and I heard Fade to Black, and I was like, what the fuck's that shit? And I went home and listened to it properly. Loved it, eh?
Sweet. Cool.
Who in the end are like our brothers, which were just strangers. We know every word to their songs. And you got Tensions and Rhymes, they're pretty heavy. Nice Jap, of course Nice Jap. Rude little boys.
Domino?
Oh, Domino. I'm waiting for their CD. Apparently it's only coming out. Domino! Gosh! Yeah, their CD's coming out next year. And so that really reiterates how much of a family we are. We can interrupt each other's conversation.
Lucky Australian in St Mary's. It's just around the corner from the train station, so it's a perfect venue to have in its spot with the train station, literally a second walk down the road. It's an outdoor venue. It's because it's the West. Most people see the West in a negative light. So when you hear things like, there's a gig on the Lucky Australian in St Mary's, a lot of people are deterred by that because it's St Mary's, But a venue's a venue, There's no different playing at Lucky Australian St Mary's and playing, the Bald-Faced Stag here in the city. The only difference is obviously capacity or what it looks like, really, and maybe who actually plays there, like name size-wise, But the Western Sydney venues itself, it's really hard to put a full-on positive and enthusiastic thought on it, because there's so many of them. People are trying their best to put on a show there or put on a regular event somewhere, Different venues are popping up all over the West, but a lot of the times people don't get behind it like they say they will. And I guess I can be accused of that, considering I'm a Westy guy, but it's hard. Like, sometimes you don't have money, or sometimes the city venues, which are the ones that are mainstays, they have a bigger event on. So it's hard to, if you hear that an international touring band is going to play at Venom or play at the Bald-Faced Stag or something like that, you're less inclined to go to the Lucky Australian St Mary's. So it's really hard. It's just a matter of timing, I think the best way to put it. The venues are fine. There's nothing wrong with the venues. The size of the venues are fine. The sound guys in the venues are fine. It's just as good, if not better, than everywhere else that you can go. It's just the stigma of it being the West. That's the sole issue. If you didn't have that issue, it'd probably work out a lot better. But I guess public transport would be an issue. Like, you know, you come to the city, if you go to a place like Venom or the Metro or whatever, you're very close to a train station that goes everywhere. If you're somewhere like St Mary's, you need to get that correct train, otherwise you're stuck there, you know. Like, things like that, I guess, bands, venues, promoters don't really take into account because of things like that. So, you know, I mean, I recommend playing them, especially if you're an upcoming band. If you're someone learning to play shows, if you're learning to know how it is to be a live band, because there is a difference between being a live band and rehearsing. Play those venues. And I'm not putting the venues down by saying that, but everybody's got to start somewhere, so why not play those places? There's nothing wrong with those places. You should do them.
What the Lucky's trying to do, I can see where it's going, and the more we can build that, the better. Because I think that everyone knows Lucky. If you spoke to anyone here, the 100 people here tonight, they would all know the Lucky for that reason. Which is great.
They're growing. There's always metal bands wanting gigs out here, especially in the out west. More popular than the rock gigs, I find. Try and put rock gigs on, but you always get so many metal gigs, metal bands wanting gigs. So yeah, it's flourishing.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
To get it so people that love music come out to see music, and we've watched that as we've been playing diminish. But people love live music, they just don't go out as much as they used to.
The Lucky Australia Tavern has been a great support. I've been booking them for about three years now, booking the shows here. The venue is just, there's not many venues that support all age gigs, so we're lucky to have that out in the west.
We have played the Lucky Australian, which is really good. We did that on the end of a tour. It was literally our last show. We played in Canberra the night before, and we got there, and we still put on a good show, but geez, we were tired.
Yeah.
Like, because we'd done that tour, we'd done Queensland, Victoria, Tasmania, South Australia, and New South Wales, and that Lucky Australian was the last show. It was hard, but we definitely like to do more out there, and it's definitely getting bigger, especially that like that Christmas thing you were talking about.
Yeah, we got offered this year, but we've got a few things going on.
Of course, yeah.
It's been we've heard good things. Not heard, but it's like good crowds there and stuff over Christmas.
Okay.
I suppose the last gig we played was Skullduggery. Old school metal.
Lucky
Old
Australian.
guys. know their shit about the metal scene.
Yeah, it was a good flow with it. With the bands played that night too, just with them all really. But yeah, having the old touch or the old element was good with them.
I suppose it's influencing all the young guys that are coming up, like these guys that are into the technical side of metal, where we're just flat out old schoolers.
Heavy and thrashing.
Yeah, even the faster shit, like the boys we play with at Lifehouse, the Festering Grippage, they were fast as fuck, but they're old school too. Katoomba boys, but they're having trouble people getting gigs up there. No one will travel to get to the gigs further out west than we think St Mary's is out west, but we'd be happy to go playing Katoomba with Festering and a couple of the other bands that play up there.
Definitely.
And playing with Red Bee last week.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool.
That was brilliant.
They're old school but fast.
Best thing.
Yeah, new school too.
Yeah. That's the young and the old as well. Again, it's been good. But it's just the people getting out there. Hopefully, each time it grows a bit more and more. They know that it's out there to go and see as well. Because a lot of people are like, oh, where? Oh, this place. Oh, really? Is that what the place there now? Because it's very hard to get the word out there. So
it takes the old Westies like us that grew up with Mortal Sin and all the old school West bands and just Sydney bands in general. Before the scene died a bit in the late 90s, and now it's starting to come back with the next generation of pretty badass metal artists.
Oh yeah, especially playing with Resonator as well. They were just insane. They played all different styles, but they still held true to old school traditions that we that I'm enjoying. I know Jay's enjoying as well, that we're getting brought up with. So that helps a lot when we're writing music.
Bringing it back to the old school. So the new guys, younger guys, know what they're going to play, how it's supposed to be done.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
It's all just about the metal, especially with the younger guys coming up. It's taking it further and further each level, a little bit faster, a little bit harder.
Knowing all the bands kind of play the same thing, it just helps, organise gigs later on down the track because we know what everyone can do and who we're playing with.
And some good people like the Shrews from old school helping try and keep everyone together and try and tie it all together. Which is
promoter head bookings helped us out heaps there. Yeah, all Western Sydney people too.
Pretty much where it started. And then because you got people who want to travel out there and get out to the people out west again, and try and build it back up there again. We're prepared. We'll get out there. We'll go the hour, 2 hour drive to get out there. Try and get everybody out there again. So.
And apparently they've had some pretty big gigs out at the Lucky. These guys have played there before with another band that they play in, another Western Sydney band. Yeah, Foundry Road.
Must have about, you reckon, 200 people there?
Oh, yeah, fair
Easy,
few.
easy,
Yeah.
And everyone
really
comes to
good out
see
there.
Foundry Road, and they had a few unknown bands playing there, which was good.
It's giving everyone equal opportunity.
And he played with Skullduggery before too, eh?
Yep.
In the band comp, the Western Sydney
they
band
did.
comp.
Yeah, they beat us in the band comp. Fair enough. They're pretty good.
They're awesome.
And the beer's cold too.
Yeah, Mars and Andy and Dave.
Yeah.
Old school as fuck. Older than me, which is unusual in the scene at the moment. Like mid-30s, and then we got the guys in their early 20s. There's a big generation gap from where metal just died.
We're bringing it back.
Picking up.
Everyone
We're bringing it back.
crap for a while and went, hang on a minute, what are we doing again?
Yeah.
I'll wake up.
And all the people that are heavily influenced, like Pantera and Slayer and Metallica and shit, these guys weren't really old enough for that generation, so...
Pantera's awesome. Got into it about a week ago, I couldn't believe it, I was blown away.
Yeah. It's a bit hard not to with people like us around.
Yeah, exactly.
Old school. And people like you, man, that are keeping it going and getting it out there. Letting
In a nutshell, support your local live music.
Yeah, get off your ass.
Get off your ass.
Spend your 10, 15, 20 bucks, whatever it is. Come see a local band. They're some of the best bands in the world.
Once a month, make the effort, It's like one show a month, pull your fingers out, get into it. Stop talking about it. Stop talking about supporting the scene. Say support the scene. Actually support the scene.
That's why one disappointment the Adelaide Club led very live played in the early weeks at Penrith is when I first sort of put it out on social media that this was a possibility, the response I got was fucking huge. Like, I don't get a lot of, I've got a heap of people on my Facebook page and I don't get a lot of response to what I post on there. And this time my page got flooded for days over it, like with people supporting it. And I'm yet to see half of these people out here to actually rock up and support it because they're too cool. They've got to go to be.
And they'd rather go. They've got to go all the way to the city, spend 2 hours travelling to the city, paying
catch a night ride at home.
Catch a night ride at
when
home.
they live 30 minutes, 20 minutes from a venue in their local area.
That's got a 24-hour license where they don't get kicked out at 3 a.m.
Yeah, there's not many venues like this in Sydney.
Support your local scene.
Support your scene, whether it is in the city or whether it's in Western Sydney. Get out, support it, whether it's the Northern Beaches, go see a band. It's cheap. Musicians put a lot of time and effort into what they do. They spend a lot of money on rehearsals and gear and all that. They don't make a lot of money from gigs. Don't get me wrong, there's some bands that do make really good money, and a lot of them I don't believe are worth it because they've made it to that point where they can charge a fee and they don't put the effort in as much as they would if they were working for a door deal or something. But get out, support it. These bands are some of the best musicians you'll ever see.
it's too late to be another